This is the Lifestream Final Fantasy Podcast, episode 26, recorded on Sunday, the 15th of October 2017. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 26 of the Lifestream Final Fantasy Podcast. My name is Flintlock. I'm the technical editor on the Lifestream. Joining me today are Lex.
Hello.
Tenny.
Hello.
And Lith.
Hey.
As you may have noticed, it's been a little while since we got the last podcast up. Our apologies for that. But the good news is that we do have a lot to talk about on this episode. So let's dive straight into the news from the last month and a half or so. And the top story here is that Final Fantasy XV is now going to be coming to the PC in late 2018. I think I'm the only person here who hasn't played Final Fantasy XV. I definitely will when it comes out on PC.
Is it late 2018?
You silly PC gamers.
Early 2018 is what this article says. Yeah.
Okay, I could have sworn you said late 2018.
I did. I wrote it down wrong. You're correct, yeah.
Probably one of the biggest things with this port to PC is that it will have mod support. So be prepared for the nude mods.
Did they not say something about nude mods? Did they not say something like...
They did. They said that, you'll be able to create nude mods, but they'll leave it up to the morality of the player of whether or not they're going to do that.
My God.
Bad idea.
They can't exactly ban mods from a single-player game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I won't be getting it, I don't think. It depends on, why would I get it? If I've already got it on, what would attract me to it, personally? Probably nothing.
There'll probably be improved graphics and frame rate and stuff like that. It's going to support 8K resolution, which is crazy to me. I don't even have a 4K set up yet.
Yeah. I don't know if it's will it?
It'll run in both 4K and 8K.
I'll believe it when I see it. I think it's going to be honest, with the way the game is built, I think it's going to struggle to run on most modern PCs at 1080.
The minimum specs on Steam are pretty high. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but higher than I've got on my PC, I think. And I have a decent gaming PC, not exactly top of the range. But
I've got the Pro, and I don't run it on a 4K screen. I run it in 1080, and the game has a mode for that, and it's basically stable frame rate mode. And it's still not all that stable on the PS4 Pro. So I don't think it's going to be... I really don't think it's going to be this amazing, you might be able to run it in 8K, but it'll be fucking 5 frames per second or something.
Now, another thing is that the PC version is also going to have a first-person mode, which not quite sure how that's going to work out with the combat, because, when it got pretty late in the game for me, I was literally just warp striking to kill everything, and it makes for a pretty chaotic battle scene, so warping in first person would probably make me a little bit sick staring at the TV screen.
I will say I'm glad for the PC gamers, because there are a lot of people on PC who have been waiting for this. So it'd be good for those players to play it on PC. So it's a positive, at least, that it is coming out. I just think it's going to be a bit of a clusterfuck.
Yeah. The PC version will also include all of the 3 character DLCs.
Isn't the PC also going to get the Pocket version too?
No, the Pocket version's for mobile.
Oh, I thought that was for the Switch and stuff.
I haven't heard any news about the Pocket Edition coming to the PC. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later.
Now this was going to be a little bit later in the pod, but as of right now, there's no plans to port 15 to the Switch, but I know it's something that they're looking at doing. They're looking to see if it's feasible.
But the Switch doesn't even have the power of the base PS4. So I think it would struggle on that.
I believe it.
But as you say, the Pocket Edition might actually be a good fit. for the Switch. Let's talk about the Pocket Edition now. Let's jump around our planned order a little bit here.
All right.
This Pocket Edition, I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's kind of a chibi-fied version of Final Fantasy XV.
I think we talked about it a little bit last time, but I think it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, it's, well, to my surprise, it was something that they had started working on after the Disguise demo was released.
Really?
But yeah, it's going to be released, in episodes. The first episode is free. I believe there's 10 episodes to the Pocket
That's right,
Edition.
yeah.
But yeah, first one is free. I'm sure you have to buy the rest. I mean, it looks cute. It's a cute idea. I mean, if they manage to port something like that to the Switch, I mean, that would be cool, but it's probably not something I'll be investing in.
And this isn't really going to be a spin-off game because it's actually trying to just retell the same story of Final Fantasy XV, except in a different format.
Retelling the story for people who don't have those consoles.
That could be a huge positive.
I can't even imagine how some moments in the game are gonna look all chibi-fied. Like, I won't be able to take some moments seriously because it's just, these deformed little chibis running around taking away from the emotion of the scene, so I'm gonna be too busy laughing.
I think it's gonna be cute.
Well, I mean, it does look cute. I don't deny that. I just... I don't know. I just think, like, Gladio's little chibi, for instance, is, like, so deformed looking.
Yeah. It's like, wow.
It's cute.
I'm assuming they'll have had to rewrite certain dialogue and stuff, and if that's the case, then it could be a huge positive for the overall story, because the story as it exists in the base game is kind of a chopped up mess. So it could be a really good thing for people if that's the way people, are experiencing that story for the first time.
Sure.
There's definitely an argument to be made that stripping these big modern Final Fantasy games back down to just their kind of core elements might actually make them a better game. I'm quite excited to try this, I gotta say. First episode's free, so why not? Might actually end up playing this before the actual Final Fantasy 15.
You'll have to come back on the podcast and let us know what you think of it.
Well, I'm here every week. Every month-ish, yeah.
I'll be here all week.
So we have a little bit more Final Fantasy 15 news before we move on. There's this multiplayer DLC called Comrades, which we have talked about a little bit on previous episodes. Mm-hmm. And the release date has now been set for Halloween, October the 31st.
Yes.
You guys going to get this? Play it?
Yes, it's available with the season pass, but you need PlayStation Plus to play it, so I might, I'll probably go and just buy maybe 3 months of PlayStation Plus just to, play it with some folks on TLS and see how it is. I mean, because I played the beta, and I remember we talked about it on one of the podcasts, a while back, but the beta didn't really impress me, but... in some of the, one of the trailers that's been released since then, I'm like, okay, so there is going to be more to this game, or more to this expansion than just, go to a base, accept a mission, go to another base, get ready, go fight some monsters, come back to base, then go back to your original base, and it's going to be adding a bit more to the story. So.
Yes, that's what they say. It's going to explore a gap in the story.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't even had a chance to finish episode Gladio or play episode Prompto, so I don't know when I'm gonna get around to this.
Well, you need to do it before the end of the month.
Yeah, I do need to do it before go to that thing.
Oh, one thing I want to mention that's not on the agenda but has been released since then is we have seen a new story patch in 15 in chapter 12, I believe, that details more events in the War of the Astrals, and you have some scenes with Luna and Gentiana, and just more scenes that kind of expand on Luna and Noctis's feelings for each other. The really should have been in the original game, but I guess better late than never.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean it was a nice addition. Although I wish the scenes detailing the War of the Astrals were more than just the screen floating over some paintings and images and stuff like that. I wish it would have been. I don't know.
There is good news for people who want more Final Fantasy XV story, and that is that the game is scheduled to receive updates well into 2018, beyond the PC release.
Yeah, a lot of people have mixed feelings about it.
Why the boo? Why the boo?
Because no, it's because I want them to move on. I want them to finish with their DLC. I don't see why they're doing this multiplayer thing, but okay, that's fine. I just want them to like finish it this year, release it on PC next year with all the shit on it, and then call it a day with 15. I'm really tired of hearing about it at every single gaming conference there is. I'm really tired of them announcing like a new fucking thing you can download, or like, I mean, props to them for including new scenes and updating the story and stuff through patches. It's a requirement rather than a boon. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, oh yay, we're getting more story. It's literally like they have to do that because it's so disjointed in the late game. It's not even funny. So I'm really glad that I haven't seen the new scenes yet, but I know that they've had like very, very positive reactions, and that's a great thing. But at this stage, I'm already tired of hearing about new 15 stuff when the game came out at the end of last year, and now they're saying it's going to continue into like all of 2018. It's a bit like, okay, so there's another year of this, and I just want them to be finished with it at a certain point, because I mean they've already said that there aren't going to be sequels to this game, and I really hope that is the case, but given that they're doing all this rubbish, we'll see. I just want, the focus to shift to other stuff at this point.
True. I agree with that. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, personally, I'm excited for more content as long as it's content that's actually, worth a damn,
Yeah, for sure. And I get that, and I'm really happy for people who are massive fans of the game. I'm not yet. I might become so in the future. I've gone through that with a few Final Fantasies where I've not really bonded with them at first, and then like I've gone back to them later and found something that I really liked. But 15 is, I'm sick of it at this point.
Kind of age like fine wine. Kind of bitter in your mouth at first, and then you go back and take a look at it, and like, okay, it's not total shit.
How many years was Square working on the 13 compilation?
Damn. Well, the first game came out in 2010,
I think.
Yeah, March 2010 is, I think, when I remember picking up my game from GameStop, and Lightning Returns, I remember getting that in, like, February of 2014, but I can't remember when exactly it came out.
It was, I'm sure it was February of 2014. The games released, like the 13 sequels released 2 years apart from each other, which is what you would expect from, like, a general franchise. So the first one was 2010, and then 13-2 was 2012, and then Lightning Returns was early 2014. Okay. And after that, they were just done with it. So, I mean, people obviously were angry at the time that 13 was getting a sequel at all, let alone 2, which was understandable, but they went through that and they finished it, and that was it. So that was, I suppose, 4 years of 13.
So we still could be in for a couple more of 15.
No, because they've said it's not getting sequels, and I'm not having it.
I mean, I don't really see how they would make a sequel. I mean, I know you've never played the game, Flint, but just, Lex and Tenny would know what I'm talking about. Just the way the game ends, I mean,
yeah,
really, there's just no room for a sequel. It's
films and video games. There have been many, many examples of things which had conclusive endings and really should not have had sequels, and then got sequels anyway.
10.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking.
Okay, well, I'll say that, with 10, for example, despite, the shitty mini games and, the J-pop everywhere and stuff, there is, sequel material there because you have a world trying to rebuild itself after finding out that their entire global religion was a lie. So, without going off into too much of a tangent, the conflicts between people who still support Yevon and those who've kind of broken away from it, that's something that, very real that I would expect to happen, after the events of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, shitty J-pop facade aside, and Charlie's Angels and the dress.
I don't disagree with that. I enjoy 10 too. I really do.
Oh yeah, I do too.
I don't totally hate it. But I get what you're saying about 15. It's not the same. It doesn't have the same scope, I don't think, for a sequel.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, with all the material they've been releasing for 15, I think it's just not necessarily that they're trying to milk it, but they're trying to make the most out of this world, because a sequel is probably not on the docket.
Not on the menu.
Who knows? We'll see. Square has surprised us before, but no. When they're done with 15, with all of its updates throughout 2018 and stuff, I would really just like to see them move on and concentrate on more important things.
Like Final Fantasy 16 or the remake.
No, the remake. I don't give two craps about Final Fantasy 16 right now. I want the remake.
Well, before we get on to 16, let's jump back a game and talk a little bit about Final Fantasy XIV, which just got a new patch, 4.1. The Legend Returns is what it's called.
Woohoo!
Lex and I have been playing it. The other two people here both have Final Fantasy XIV accounts, but I guess you're both still very early in the game.
I'm still level 17. I have not had a chance to play it in over a month.
Yeah.
I literally have not played it since the very first night I tried it out.
Oh dear.
I'm horrible. Which is, it sucks because that Rabinaster expansion that you guys got looks really cool. And
a Rabinaster expansion?
It's in the patch.
Or whatever the heck it is.
It's in the patch. So this patch brought the new housing district, Shirogane, and it's in the Far East, and it's beautiful. And we got a mansion in Shirogane. We got the best mansion you can get in Shirogane, much to the ire of, to explain how housing works to people who might not play 14. It's not instanced in the sense that there are wards that every player can go to, and to buy a house you basically have to log on as soon as the servers come up, because they all get bought within 5 minutes. So we got a mansion for the free company, and we were previously in a small house. And the mansion is huge and beautiful, and it's the best plot in the world, plot 30. So we're very happy about that. Me and Flint got up early on patch day, start refreshing the client to get the play button to come up, and the night before we'd rehearsed the fastest way to get to the plot we wanted. And I'm not kidding. And we went in at the same time, and we were on Discord, and we ran to the plot, and Flint just managed to beat someone else who was doing the same thing to our mansion. So we got our mansion.
Yay! That's actually kind of fun to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should log on, because if you have a teleport to the free company house, and it'll take you to the new mansion.
She won't if she's still on the free trial, because you can't join the free company yet.
Yeah, I'm still technically on the free trial.
Well, you can't. If it's been more than a month, you would have to pay for a subscription to play it again anyway, I think.
No, the free trial is unlimited.
So it is. Forgot time-wise.
It's up until level 30. Once I hit level 30, then I'll have to start paying to play.
Yeah, 30 or 35 or something like
that. So there's that, the new housing district, which we are very happy about, because we managed to get a massive upgrade. And then there is the new content. So in 14, they release new content every 3 to 4 months. And with each new patch or content, they normally release a dungeon or two for like normal play. They update the main story, so that's a continuous main story. And on every odd numbered patch, they release a 24-man raid. And the 24-man raid for the patches in Stormblood is called Return to Ivalice. So it's all Tactics and 12 themed, and it features characters from Tactics. And the first...
And one from 12 we've seen so far.
One from 12, yeah. And the first raid is the royal city of Rabanastar.
Wow.
So it's literally like the 24-man raid is literally you're in Rabanastar. And there's a moment I just want to talk about. I don't want to spoil it too much, but I'll just mention this one moment where all of us, because we played through it at the same time on Discord, we were all like, oh my god, this looks amazing. And you end up in the Garam Scythe waterway at one point.
Oh my god.
And you're just like flying down the water and the aqueducts and stuff. It's really cool because it looks so good, but you can also tell it's like it is from 12. But it looks amazing in the game. It's a great moment. And Flint also has a video, actually, of us playing the raid.
You should go watch it.
We had some fun moments, because there were 4 of us doing it. Lex, me, Kimball and Joe. And it was the first time any of us had seen any of this. We hadn't looked at any guides or anything. So it was a blind run. And it was quite difficult, as a blind run. I don't think it's going to be super challenging once you've learned all the fights, but there were some really fun mechanics of, towers falling on top of players who didn't even see them coming, and suddenly Joe screaming in the Discord, and so we put a little video compilation together of those moments. I suppose it's on the Lifestream forum. I might link it on the show notes, but it's definitely on the forum. Yeah, it was a really good fun raid. I was totally sold on the sort of Tactics 12 crossover by the end. Beforehand, I was kind of wishing that it would just be more 12, because I'm really into 12 and I kind of only somewhat like Tactics. But the music from Tactics worked really well, I thought. The story seems interesting. So yeah, thumbs up on that.
I would like them to lean more into 12 or the Lord of 12 and the later. They might do some more 12 themed stuff in the later patches and the rest of the raid. But one of the things I liked about it as well is that Hashmal was there, was he not? Hashmal's a boss.
Yes.
So there is like 12 stuff in there. Obviously Rabanastar being a big one.
I think Hashmal is in Tactics as well.
Is Rabanastar in Tactics?
No.
There we go.
The dungeon in the patch, I think, is pretty bland.
Yeah, it's probably the most... What I was expecting was... so normally in previous patches, in a Realm Reborn patches, so they normally do 5 patches, right? And in Realm Reborn patches, they did 3 dungeons per patch, 3 new dungeons. And those dungeons became like your expert roulette, which is a daily thing you can use to get items and such. So they had that variety in the 3 dungeons, and they always did 1 brand new dungeon and 2 hard mode versions of dungeons that are already in the game. But they are completely different. It's not like a cop-out. The dungeons are all, the hard mode dungeons are completely different from their normal mode counterparts. So they did 3 per patch, and then when Heavensward released and they did their 5 patches, they did 2 dungeons per patch. And they decided this time with Stormblood that they're going to do, for the odd numbered patches, so like 4.1, 4.3 and 4.5, they're going to do 1 dungeon and more other content. And on even numbered patches, they're going to do 2 new dungeons. So I don't know how I feel about this, because I was expecting with their 1 dungeon for it to be excellent and amazing, and it's very, very crap. It's just, it's not awful, but it's a very boring, bland dungeon, as Flint said. It's kind of disappointing, to be honest, but Rabanastar's in it, so it's Rabanastar, the raid has been released, and that was really good. So, but it's just a shame that the dungeon isn't really interesting.
There's also a new trial, but I don't think either of us have tried that one yet.
What's that?
The Royal Menagerie Extreme, yeah.
It's just an extreme version of the original fight. I haven't tried it yet, no. I probably will try it this week, though.
So we mentioned the housing, and just before we move on from Final Fantasy XIV, we should perhaps say that the housing situation has gathered a little bit of attention in the gaming press. It was sort of the highlight of this patch, and many people ended up extremely disappointed because they wanted to get a house in the new district, or even just get a house in one of the old ones when someone moved. And then because of the massive queues to log in and server instability, and there was like a little bug as well, they couldn't get the house they wanted, and there's been much complaining.
People are going crazy.
But they have announced that there will be some more houses added later.
Yeah,
so that's kind of soften the blow.
That's not going to fix the issue, as many people are saying because the issue is people buy the plots of land and then sell them at an increased price. So it's like scalpers will run in to buy the plots of land, and then like the plot of land, a small house, for example, costs about 3.5 million gil. And then they'll then sell that for like 100 million gil.
Oh, wow.
To someone who's absolutely desperate for a house. So like that has been going on since personal housing was introduced. And when housing was first introduced, when I first got the TLS free company house, it was only free companies that could buy houses. And our house sat there unbought for about a week while I saved up the money to buy it. So the difference these days is that personal housing is now a thing. And as soon as personal housing became a thing, like as in each player can own their own house. Well, they can't because of the number, but the idea is that a single person, like for example, I have a personal house as well as the FC house. So we have our own FC house, and I can also have my own personal house. And since that was introduced, every single plot of land has sold immediately. So the people who play the game who want a house but couldn't get it because they weren't like one of the very first people to log in are very, very angry because they're just like, this is unfair that people are buying these houses and then selling them. And like the developers have come out and said numerous times it's against the terms of service to do that, but there's nothing in place to stop them.
Yep.
Okay, so they need to implement something that will force them to only sell the house for a certain price.
They could do that, yeah. But the way it works is like there's a plot of land and you run up to the placard and you buy that plot of land. And if you're not the first person to do that, it's not yours, obviously. So it's very like first come, first serve. And when you relinquish that land, you don't get any money back. So if I could go to our FC house and click the relinquish land button and it would demolish the house and everything on it.
Please don't.
I'm not going to, Jesus. And it would demolish the land and leave it open for other people to come to it, but that doesn't happen. What happens is people arrange with someone, because it's not even a certain thing. Like, if someone agrees to buy a house, it is literally a case of you tell them when you're going to demolish it and they will stand outside the placard and buy it for themselves. But so it's like, it's not there's no official way to sell a house in 14. Like, if I was to demolish the house, I wouldn't get any money back.
Okay.
Even though ours cost 45 million to buy.
You have to have someone give you the money ahead of time, and then you go demolish it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I wouldn't personally do that. If I was going to get rid of the house, my own house, I would just demolish it. Do you know what I mean? But and we will be holding on to our FC house till the end of time because it's the most sought after plot in the world.
Yeah.
In the game, pretty much.
In the game, yeah, the entire game. It's the one everyone wants. So we got really, really, really lucky. And we did practice and stuff, and we knew it was going to be a rush, and we were fully prepared not to get it. To the point where I ran to a different house. I ran to our backup house, basically, which was like a medium house on the other end of the ward that was also really nice. And I was the first one there as well. But we got really lucky, and Flint managed to snag the one that we wanted. So... But as I say, people are going absolutely crazy about it. They're really, really mad. I mean, we were prepared to not get it. So if we didn't get it, we would have just been like, oh, well, that sucks. But people are like, why can't I get a house? This sucks. This is awful. And they're like...
I'm unsubscribing from the game.
Unsubbing from the game and stuff.
Aww.
Yeah.
So we got very lucky.
I have to say, we did get lucky. And there was a moment... in my research the previous night when I just thought, what am I doing with my life? Just, timing which areas faster to log in by half a second or whatever for a stupid in-game house.
It's got to be done if you want a house in 14. That's the system. I mean, we wanted the big house, and we got the big house because we did all of that. If we hadn't done all of that, like, even if we'd known the route, if you hadn't used, what's it called?
Shikuchi.
I keep going to call it Shinjuku for some reason. There's a ninja move called Shikuchi that allows you to basically warp forward by like a small distance. And there was someone ahead of Flint in terms of like where the house was to his position, and he used that move and got there before them. And if he hadn't used that move, we wouldn't have the house. So
oh wow,
it's like
practice made perfect.
Go, Flint.
Thanks. Let's just end this by saying that our house is open to visitors. If you happen to play on Cerberus, you can come find us in Ward 7, of course, being a Final Fantasy VII website, plot number 30.
Okay.
Let's move on to Mobius Final Fantasy now. There's been an announcement just in the last couple of days that there's going to be a Final Fantasy X and X-2 crossover coming to the game, which may explore some sort of plot holes in the gap between those two games. Tenny, you were the one who found this article and shared it with us on the live stream. What are your thoughts?
DualShockers has an article on it, and there is a video that's kind of like a trailer of the upcoming like event. It's in Japanese, so I don't understand Japanese, obviously. But so according to what DualShocker says, that it is supposed to take place between 10 and 10-2. Now, didn't like Dissidia also, was that like Tidus taken between those two games, or am I wrong about that?
I'm not an expert, I'm afraid.
I think you're right, but it's been a long time since I played Dissidia, but I do think you're right about
that. Okay, but it almost makes it sound like, because like with in Dissidia, like nobody remembered anything, but this almost makes it sound like this might be like the plot of the event, is that we're going to, explore what happened to Tidus after the end of 10 and before the end of Final Fantasy X-2.
So it's potentially canon, is what you're saying?
Potentially is what it sounds like. So I might actually have to download Mobius and play it. At least for this event.
And that might be a YouTube effort for me.
Wasn't there that audio book that was the audio drama supposed to cover?
No, we don't know about that.
The audio drama takes place a few years after 10-2, and it's awful.
Okay.
I remember listening to that, and I'm all like, I wish this didn't exist because this ruins everything.
I had similar thoughts.
Do you know the plot of it, Flint?
Of the audio drama?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I listened to it. I have it on my
2.5 will Super Dream something. I don't even fucking know. 358/2, whatever it's called.
It's so weird. Like, how do you take, how do you fuck this up?
Yeah, maybe the Mobius thing will be okay though. Like, it could be.
I'm not sure when it's being released outside of Japan, because all it says is that it'll be available on October 16th.
That's tomorrow.
In Japan. Oh. So it'll be available in Japan, and then on the 20th they're also getting a Blitzball themed event. I don't know when it is releasing outside of Japan, so I don't know if the 16th will be everywhere or if it's just. It sounds like it's just Japan according to DualShockers, but I can't imagine it's not going to be coming out everywhere else.
Interesting.
I'm not sure when, but I guess if somebody has the Japanese Mobius, play it and find out, I guess.
We may be able to ask someone on the forum to check that out for us.
So it's called Dream Within a Dream, Eternal Dream. Which is okay, that's a weird title. But yeah, it's
3D Dream Dot Distance.
Yeah, pretty much that triple D, 3D, I don't know. Dream Within a Dream, Eternal Dream is going to be the name of the event, which seems very much like, okay, that's going to be about Tidus and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's story of what happens to Tidus between the endings of the two games will be told in Mobius Final Fantasy. So this makes it sound like that is going to be the point of this event, is that they're going to tell us this is what happened to Tidus after the end of 10 and before he popped back up in the end of 10 too.
I'm wondering what there is to tell. Like,
I know, like,
he would have been floating in the far plane. Is this going to be like, kind of a pseudo maiden who travels the planet where Tidus floats through the far plane and, meets different folks in the far plane and finds out all this knowledge and all this other stuff?
I don't know, I guess we'll find out. But a theory that I always had, and spoilers for people who don't know how Final Fantasy X ends, it's hard for me to fathom that people still wouldn't by now, but I guess they still exist. But one theory that I had is that during the endgame content, if you revisit all of the temples, you get, like, when you talk to all the faith, they do talk to you a little about, I can't remember which ones, I think Shiva might mention something about it, and I can't remember who else, but they talk about the potential of creating a new dream. Like, one of them says, we will create a new dream for you to play or whatever. Like, it almost kind of insinuates that they might be able to recreate the dream Xanarkand onto the far plane, which means that, it probably means that Tidus can't be in spirit anymore, but he might still be chilling in the dream Xanarkand if it even still exists in a different place. So it's possible that maybe the Faith were able to recreate the dream Xanarkand, and now we get to, like, hang out with Tidus in the dream Xanarkand that now exists on the far plane instead of in, like, an ultra little pocket dimension in Spira.
To me, that kind of doesn't make sense, because it's like the whole point of, dream, of Tidus fading away at the end of 10 was that the Faith were tired of dreaming. They wanted to sleep, they wanted to stop dreaming to create this world to keep alive and everything. So
yeah, I mean,
like a dream Xanarkand in the far plane. I mean, not that it's not a decent theory. I'm not dogging on any of it. I'm just like, why would the Faith want
is it
to
just
create
a dream, or
new?
is it because the dream Xanarkand was being summoned into existence by Yevon? So I think there's more to it than just the Faith are tired. They're being forced to do this by Yevon. Not only that, but then Yevon is also creating sin. So maybe doing it on the far plane maybe it's a different kind of experience to do it on the far plane versus in the real world.
Well, because all the fireflies and stuff exists. That's where they exist, is on the far plane. So maybe it's different because of that. I don't know. I remember playing 10-2, and there are all those kind of secret / hidden behind walls of dialogue scenes with Machen you can have that you need to have to get the 100% ending to have Tidus come back. And he talks about that stuff, about like him being summoned and all that, and I barely remember it. I don't think I register it even when I'm like physically playing the game. But there's probably something in that that's relevant.
Maybe I have to replay.
I don't think he was summoned. I think
Machen.
I just played 10-2 last year, so I'm trying to think of that dialogue. But basically, Maken he was so forgetful that he forgot that he had died and was basically an unsent the entire time. So
did you do the 100% Lith?
Yes.
Because there are some scenes, like there's some very hidden scenes with Machen, and one of the ones he asks you if you want to see him again or something, as you know.
Oh, Bahamut asks you that, I think. On the far plane.
Oh, that's what it is. And you whistle or something? Or you have to whistle to make that happen? Fuck knows, man. Crazy. It's just batshit.
If I had never read a guide, I wouldn't have known to do that.
Oh, for sure. It's like you have to press a specific button that doesn't have that function anywhere else in the game. It's just if you press it between this time point and this time point, it happens. And it's like, how are you going to know what to do that? Like,
I know, right? But yeah, so it was Bahamut asks Yuna, like, do you want to see him again? And then you have the option of saying yes or the option of saying it's better this way.
It's like, why would you say no? I mean, this is pretty much the canon ending of the whole story between 10 and 10. So why would they give you the option of saying no?
Right?
You should never have done that.
I mean,
You should never have given
believe...
all that shit.
No. Yuna was just fine with her lesbian road trip.
Fuck yeah. No, I do, as much as I'm a proponent of the fact that I believe that Tidus should not have come back at the end of 10-2, the ending of 10 was perfect and beautiful as it was. I do think that, like, when giving the option, why would she say no if she were all like, you want to see him again? Nah, I'm good.
I think if she knew that the events of that stupid audio drama were going to happen, she probably would have been like, nah, I'll just leave this here.
God, that's
no, you can keep him.
As far as I'm concerned, that shit does not exist.
Yeah, same here.
I just clicked on that completely out of curiosity after I bought 10 and 10-2 as a pack on the HD remaster on Steam. Like, what is this? And then sat through it for 10 minutes and I was like, what the hell?
It's stupid. It's so fucking
It's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
I mean,
so he just gets his head blown off by a blitzball, and then
oh my god,
that's the novel. That is not an audio drama. That happened in the novel. That the novel is only, or the novella, whatever. That's only available in Japanese. I don't think it's been officially translated into anything else.
Did that not happen in the audio drama?
Not in the audio drama.
I thought it did.
That's like one of the most random and shitty ways to die, getting your head blown off by a blitzball.
I think the audio drama might take place after that happened, because I know, like, the two characters, like the two main characters of the audio drama, like, kind of when they meet up with Tidus, they kind of talk about how he seems like he's like hurt or tired or something.
Oh yeah, and she's like, because she's not. That's what it is in the audio drama. It is beyond that point because she's avoiding him, and nobody can work out why they're not like speaking to each other and stuff.
Yeah, because there is a scene where they overhear Tidus talking to Lulu, and he's all like, I don't know why she won't talk to me and stuff like that.
And she's like, if I acknowledge his existence, he'll disappear.
Something like that? I don't know.
It's ridiculous.
Stupid. If I acknowledge his existence, he'll disappear.
I don't know. I have to go reread it.
No, it's because she's the only one that knows he's actually dead, because he got his head blown off by a blitzball. So she's like, she's like, I can't be around him anymore because he's actually dead, but nobody knows yet except me. That's literally it. Yeah. And then Sin comes back at the end. That's the audio drama.
Yeah. Let's hope that this Mobius crossover is not quite as batshit crazy.
I know. I was like, that novel and the audio drama, I'm just all like, God, just stop it. Just don't. You're ruining.
I mean, it was just everything is just so out of character. I mean, it's kind of like what Harry Potter and the Cursed Child was to the Harry Potter series. It's just some far out batshit sequel edition that makes no fucking sense in terms of the story.
I remember reading an interview it was written by Nojima, wasn't it? Yeah. And I remember reading an interview with him because he wrote the scenario for 10, but was like less involved with 10-2, and he was like, I really don't like happy endings.
Oh, we know that, buddy.
And he wanted it to. He liked like the way 10 ended, like most people did, and like was unhappy with the resolution in 10-2 with the 100% ending or whatever, and that's why it's so ridiculous. Because he was just like, I don't think it's right that it was all kind of wrapped up in a bow, but there's ways to write that without being so fucking crazy.
I think I mentioned this in the forum way back in the day when all this shit came out. I was all like, I think that he's just fucking trolling everybody. Like, he's writing this to be weird as fuck on purpose.
Yep.
There's ways to fix the ending without completely screwing your continuity and your fan base in the freaking ear. Like, no.
That's so, like, what? But anyways, yeah.
I think we've probably vented about 10 and 10-2 enough for the time being. Well, I'm sure we'll come back to this on a later podcast. Please look forward to it.
Of course.
Let's get on to our next piece of news. Continuing our move back through the series, we have a piece of Final Fantasy IX news, which is that it's been released on the PS4. Just like that. It was kind of. I think it was released on the same day as it actually came out a couple of weeks ago now.
Yep.
This is a Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to tell the story of how it came out.
Please do.
They announced it at Tokyo Game Show, I believe, and they showed a trailer, and then at the end of it said, out now on PS4, and everyone went, whoa! And it released worldwide.
Like stealth release. It was like, BT dubs, everyone. This is happening today. Oh, okay.
That is awesome, though. What's sad?
For not being able to play the game.
There are a few things to mention. The first is they skipped 8, and I know some people don't care, but I do, because I like 7, 8, and 9 equally, almost, being the PlayStation games that I do love. 9 is an amazing game, but it is a straight port of the PC port, which is a port of the smartphone version, meaning the menus are all huge and annoying. But it is still a great version of the game. One very big negative, though, is that it doesn't have analog support, which is so random. The mobile version and the PC version also didn't have analog support, which is, again, a very random thing, because the original game had analog support way back.
To be clear on this, if you play the PC version with a controller and an analog stick, it will accept the analog movements, but it will convert those into 8 directions.
Yes, but that's the same as the PS4 version, and that you use the analog stick, and it's not true analog movement.
Yeah.
So
I thought when you said it at first, it kind of sounded like you can't use the analog stick, which would be like,
no, you can use the analog stick to control the characters, but the characters move with like D-pad in 8 directions. Regardless of what method you choose. And the menus are also really ugly, just because they're ported from the smartphone version, which obviously had like big massive menus for your fingers to touch. But aside from that, it's graphically nicer than the original game, and the text and stuff has been updated, and it's a great way to experience the game. It also gives you the boosters that came with the PC version, which are like all hits 9999, and so there's 2 separate sets of boosters. So there's the menu boosters, and that's like learn every ability, etc. Those disable trophies if you use those. But there's also other boosters that are like activated by just you pressing like a button combination, and those are like speed up, which is really good to have in 9, because it's very, very slow in terms of the battles and stuff. So you can do like a 3 times, or I don't even know if it's 4 times speed up. To speed through the game. I used that a lot when I did my Steam playthrough. One thing worth noting is that when there's a countdown on the screen, so like the half-hour Tantarian countdown in like disc 3, I believe.
Yep.
It doesn't speed up the time; it just speeds up your movement. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Other than that, yeah, there's not really much to say. It's the same as the PC port that was released before. It sucks that there's no analog control. And I think that's it, pretty much.
Yeah, the battles actually load quicker as well than they did on the PS1 originally, even if you don't have the speed booster on.
That's good.
Which is, they used to be really slow. So any of you are planning to buy this?
Eventually.
I've never played 9, so this will be my first time experiencing the game.
Really? Huh.
Yes, really.
It's only
something I'm ashamed to admit to people.
But
because
you can rectify the situation.
Oh, I'm gonna rectify it and maybe try and get in on that.
I'll come back to this. We'll come back to this topic when we do the listener feedback question later. I feel, because 9 is going to be topical then.
It's going to be an extremely long time since I played 9, so I really should probably get this.
I still think it's a fantastic game. One of the best in the series.
For sure.
I'm not sure if I'd get the new version. Again, I don't have PS4, but if I did, I don't like the menus and the analog movement. Those are kind of big enough things for me not to play it and just go back to the PS1 version on emulator or something.
It's so slow though. That's the only thing about the original version.
You can speed up emulators though.
It's not the same.
It's not really, but
it's not the same. I don't know.
Okay, I think we're done with Final Fantasy IX then. We have a new mobile game. Hooray! Everyone was waiting for this, right?
And the peasants rejoiced.
God.
This game was actually announced in February, but at the Tokyo Game Show a few weeks ago, there was a video of Final Fantasy Explorer's Force, I'm not entirely sure if this is going to have a worldwide release or just in Japan. This game looks reasonably interesting. It's got kind of a slightly 12-ish feel to it because you can go exploring and then fight monsters on the same screen. There's no like separate battle screen. There's like a job system in it with half a dozen or so jobs. There are some Final Fantasy characters from the rest of the series, like Cloud and Squall and Lightning.
AKA cash grab.
Yeah, probably. I don't know how this is going to be priced. I imagine it'll be free to play and then pay to get these characters or something like that. Then you can summon various things. There's like a half-hour video from TGS. It's in Japanese, but I actually think this looks quite interesting as far as mobile games go. I don't know, have any of you had a chance to look at this?
I just clicked on the link, and I was reading some of the comments, and it was like somebody wrote gacha bullshit. And there's like, I don't know what this term is, maybe somebody else does, but it's like gacha something. It's basically like loot boxes. Because apparently you're going to have to pay to like get equipment and certain things and upgrade your characters and stuff, which is, it's not going to go down well when this game releases. It'll be whatever that game was, ATB. It'll be that all over again. Don't know why they're releasing another mobile game. They have quite a successful one right now in Mobius.
To be fair, I think All the Bravest was panned for being absolutely shit more than it was panned for being a mobile cash grab.
What was the other one? If it wasn't All the Bravest, there was a mobile cash grab.
Airborne Brigade, perhaps.
I think it might have been that one. I don't know. There are too many Final Fantasy mobile games. They're all equally mediocre. Don't understand. They must be making a shitload of money out of them. They just must be.
For sure.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, why are there so goddamn many? Like, they just have like one or two.
Mobile gaming is very popular in Japan because a lot of people play these games on their daily commutes to and from work on public transportation and stuff. So it's one of the reasons they've been focusing a lot on mobile gaming. Mostly for the Japanese audience and everything.
I mean, the only Final Fantasy mobile game I've ever been interested in recent years is FF7 G-Bike. I could see myself actually playing that, and that didn't release in the West, so fuck them.
I would have liked to play G-Bike.
Yeah, it would have been. I mean, I know that now I have an Android phone, I can probably download the APK from somewhere and like literally just put it on my phone and play it. But they didn't release it officially in the West, and I don't know why, because it would have been, I think, out of all the mobile games they've released, it would have been probably the most popular because it has the 7 brand name on it. In terms of previous mobile games, obviously there was like before Crisis and stuff, but that's talking about a different era.
And it's also like kind of like a racing type of game, right?
G-Bike?
Yeah, you like are riding the bike around.
Yeah, it's basically like an expanded version of the Escape from Shinra Headquarters in the original game.
See, and I think that would probably go down with Western audiences a lot more too, because all these other ones are basically like RPGs, which are popular too, but
yeah.
I think that the bike would have had a broader appeal.
It would have, I think, for sure. I don't know why they chose not to release that in the West. So I think that's still getting updated in Japan.
G-Bike?
Yeah.
I thought they stopped it completely and it's not even available anymore.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Shows you how closely I follow these things. When it's related to mobile, I'm just like, I don't even see it anymore. They're all the same. To me, I'm just like, oh, it's a mobile game. Next.
If you, dear listener, know anything about the first generation of Final Fantasy mobile games, then please head over to the Lifestream forum because our beloved Shademp is working his ass off trying to recover these old games as best he can. But of course, many of them were never released outside of Japan. Some of them came pre-installed on phones, which have now been reset, and you have to buy them secondhand from a seller who won't even switch the phone on to tell you if it's got this game on it. And
that
can't ship it with the battery and all sorts of problems.
Mm-hmm. This includes Before Crisis, Final Fantasy VII, Dirge of Cerberus Lost episode. Did it include the FF7 snowboarding one? Because that was a thing. I don't know if it did.
I think so, yeah.
FF7 snowboarding was like the first like Final Fantasy app on phones, I think. Like it was before Crisis. It was before Crisis.
Before Crisis.
Before Crisis. So, but yeah, we're trying to, Shudemp specifically is trying to find these games because I think you can actually get them online, but obviously there's no way to play them, so it's pointless. So, and because I think Before Crisis was due to space on phones, it was like you had the shell of the program that ran it on the phone. Some phones come with like the first 2 episodes or something, and then you had to like network update to get the rest of the episodes. So there is legitimately no way to play Before Crisis in the modern era because all of that was discontinued a long time ago. So it's just about trying to find basically these fragments where I can dissect them.
This is a sad fact about the digital age, really. Just that these things quite easily get lost and then become completely inaccessible.
Yeah.
Because there's no longer like a hard copy.
There may be. I mean, Square probably have some, but they're not going to just willingly release their source code, I imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, they could have lost it as well. I mean, God knows they've lost code before.
I mean, these games were released on flip phones. So it's one of those ones where if you remember ever having like a branded flip phone, and like in the very late generation of branded flip phones, you could maybe plug it into a computer. But we're talking about the era where it couldn't, you couldn't put MP3s on it. You had like polyphonic ringtones and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's that era. The games existed, in some sort of fucking JavaScript wormhole on these flip phones, and there's just no way, like no emulator exists kind of thing. So it'd be good to try and kind of get the actual data and attempt to decompile it in some way.
We could have a whole podcast about these, as far as I'm concerned. I find it really fascinating.
For sure.
To dump on here, but we'll save that for another time, I guess. There was actually, speaking of mobile games, a little bit of news about Record Keeper, which I have to say, as far as the Final Fantasy mobile games go, Record Keeper is a pretty decent one.
I'd say it's probably the best one, yeah.
Yeah,
that's one I probably played the most of.
Me too, yeah. At the Tokyo Game Show, they demoed a video sequence where they recreated the Final Fantasy VII intro in the game engine. So there's obviously going to be some sort of Final Fantasy VII event coming up here. You can go check it out on the Lifestream.net. We have an article up with this video in it. I think it looks pretty neat. Don't know about you guys.
Is this event a harbinger of things to come, though?
It looks pretty cool. I've seen it. It does. It's quite nice, but the graphical style of that game and stuff, it actually looks really nice. So we'll see what it's like when it's out.
Indeed. Moving on then, there was a limited color edition version of the Cloud Play Arts Kai model. I think this has been out in America before, but for the first time it was available in Europe, and there was a limited 500 box run of these 30th anniversary mystery boxes. They only revealed that you would get this Cloud model and one playing card or something. I don't remember exactly. We happen to have someone on this show who bought one of these boxes. So, Lex, why don't you tell us all about it?
Yeah, I saw that there was a 30th anniversary box being released, and I remember, was it the 15th or the 20th anniversary? One of those two. There was like a big, Final Fantasy collection released, and it's something I always kind of regretted not getting, just because it's something to commemorate. FF is like a huge hobby of mine, and I love it and stuff. So I was like, I'm going to get this one, even though it was basically a loot crate in that it was like, you pay this amount of money and you don't know what's in it. aside from the Cloud Play Arts Sky. So obviously the Cloud Play Arts Sky was a big draw for me anyway, because hello, Final Fantasy VII. I don't have, the only Play Arts Sky I have aside from that is the Noctis one that came with my Ultimate Collector's Edition of 15, and I've never even bothered to take it out of the plastic. But I wanted the limited colour edition because obviously it's the original game, and I thought, why not? I'll just dip into this. So I got the box. There's loads and loads of pictures I've posted on the live stream in the Final Fantasy 30th anniversary thread, I believe. And it looks really good, and he's quite posable and stuff. I would say it's overall pretty, good quality, excellent model, etc. I've got him standing next to my desk right now. Occasionally I will make him pose a certain way and then send a picture of it to someone to let them know how I'm feeling. The only complaint I've got is that his legs are a bit weird. Like, the legs are a bit large and the hips are a bit wide. I think it's just because he's so posable that you can do a lot with the legs and stuff. But it's a really good high quality model. The actual 30th anniversary box contained that. It had a 30th anniversary mug, which I have next to me also. And it had, aside from that, I don't think there was anything huge other than the trading cards. So I had 3 massive packs, boxes of the trading card collectibles. And I don't know if it was random per box, but I got the Final Fantasy VII one, the Final Fantasy X one, and the Final Fantasy XIII one, which I was pretty happy with because I'm a fan of all of those entries. And then there were loads of booster packs as well for the trading card game. So it was literally thousands of cards. But I don't know. I think that was it. Shitload of cards, Cloud Play Arts Sky, and a mug. I'm not unhappy with the purchase because the Cloud Play Arts Sky would have cost the amount that I paid on its own. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
There are also some promotional pictures of that model of Cloud on the front page of the live stream for anyone who's interested.
You just reminded me it also came with an Amano art postcard set. The irony of that is that Joe gave me said Amano card postcard set when I met him about a month and a half ago. Met up with him for a TLS meetup, and he brought some gifts. One of the gifts he gave me was that. So I now have 2.
Nice.
Well, hey, if you want to send one of those my way,
I think I will. The set that Joe gave me, I've already given one of them away. So I'll probably just start giving them out to random TLS members at meetups and stuff.
Guess I know what to expect next February then.
We'll see.
If we do a Secret Santa or something this year, you can send it to somebody.
All right. The final piece of news we have here is quite a juicy one, I think. It's from Kitase, Yoshinori Kitase, who has, I think about a month ago, commented on a number of popular fan theories about Final Fantasy games, including, did Squall die at the end of Disc 1 in Final Fantasy VIII? His answer was no. Are Renault and Ultimania the same person? Again, no. And various other theories.
It's surprising how many of those I felt like he'd never heard before. I'm like, they've got to have at least heard this stuff before.
Wait a minute, die at the end of Disc 1? Was that when he was freaking impaled with the ice spear by Idia?
Yes. It's quite a nice theory, to be honest, because everyone is kind of the story after that in the game becomes completely batshit. So,
yeah, Disc 1 is so good, and suddenly after Disc 1, you're like, this game is weird as fuck now.
See, I played it when I was very young, so I didn't quite get that impression from it when I was playing through it. Now, as an adult, when I'm looking back at it, the Disc 1 story is very, it seems very one track. Do you know what I mean? In a good way. It's quite focused, and then after that, it does go a bit crazy. But I just, at the time when I played this, I just took it in as the fantastical part of what Final Fantasy is, and the story, wherever the story was going, I was kind of along for the ride. But yeah, that's where the Squall is dead theory came from in the first place. Was basically just look, it looks like he's getting stabbed through the heart here, and then after this, everything is nuts, and everybody's like suddenly friends. And
it was more than just the heart. Like that was a really big fucking piece of ice that like impaled like his whole chest practically.
Yeah.
And then Kitase's like, oh, he was stabbed to the shoulder. That's not through the fucking shoulder. I don't know what to tell you. That's not what it looked like on screen. Yeah. But I guess it was just his air quote shoulder. And by that we mean his entire torso, but whatever.
I don't know, I always like these developer interviews, in the sense that they confirm or deny things, but I don't ever find them reliable, purely because they have gone back on stuff that they've said before so many times, and it just gives off this impression that they don't actually know what they're talking about. Like, in the sense that they don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, quite often they're like, why are people asking me these questions? Like, what even is this? But did Squall die at the end of Disc 1 in FF8? No, I think everybody knew that was the case, but it was just a fun theory.
I think in this case, I would take this as reliable, because I think that if this stuff was true, they would have planned it amongst themselves.
Yeah.
That's when, out of the blue, they decide, oh, well, 7 and 10 are in the same universe. That's your kind of all like, are they really?
Interesting you should bring that up, because that's mentioned as well, and it's like, that's the only one that he didn't flat out deny. But no, it's a bit more. See, if you read the actual interview, it's a bit more involved than that, because what he actually says is they're not actually the universes aren't related, but they could be like distant ancestors or something.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a flat no or yes.
Well, was Kitase the one who first threw that stuff out there, or who was that?
I think it might have been Kitase.
Like back in the day, where he was all like, "Well, maybe they're connected." Ooh.
Well, he was the producer of Final Fantasy X too, which was the game that established that link, at least as being a possibility. I mean, I don't think that that came from an interview as so much as it came from what happens in the game.
No,
in the game, there's a character named Shinra in the game, and he talks about the idea of using the far plane as an energy source. And you're like, oh, really?
Yeah, but did Kitase not say something in Ultimania all the way back then, even? That there was a link between the two? I'm sure they did.
I don't know.
I'm sure it was a developer thing.
Of the Ultimanias.
We do.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Spoilers. Sorry about that.
To be honest, I always thought about the Shinra using the far plane energy, was more of like an Easter egg and stuff, and then later I found out, I'm like, no, wait, this shit is connected? No way.
I know, that's the same thing that I thought. I thought it
was just supposed to be an Easter egg.
Yeah, same here, like a clever Easter egg, haha, we get the joke, move on. The idea that it's supposed to be like, oh, they're connected, I always thought that was a little cheeseball, like, no, they're not freaking connected.
Well, they are kind of like, even the developers are like, maybe it's a connection, do you know what I mean? They're not committed to it. They're not saying that it definitely is. They're saying that it could be. Like, I think the original theory went that and like the Shinra company in FF7 are like Shinra from FF10-2 is like a distant ancestor of them.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, that 10 would be like in the past, and then 7 is in the future or something.
Yeah, and like they discovered space travel and went to a different planet and shit.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm. But the other one that was debunked is are FF8's Renoa and Ultimacia the same person. So there was another theory for it, which was like Renoa can't die and eventually becomes Ultimacia. And the fan theory is like comes from like moments in the game that could say that that's plausible and stuff. And it's a theory I always kind of liked, to be honest, because it put a kind of darker spin on 8's ending.
But I think that one's totally plausible because Squall dies at the end of Disc 1, and so everything after that is just a dream. But this theory is a little bit more complex. Squall dying is basically like, it could have happened. Wouldn't it be funny if it happened, basically? Whereas with Renoa and Ultimacia, it's kind of, you got to think about it a little bit harder because there's all that time compression stuff, and I don't even want to try getting my head around this.
It's a very interesting theory, though, and anyone that's a fan of Final Fantasy VIII would do well to read it. We know it's not true, but that doesn't make it not fun to think about. Especially with the ending and stuff, because there's a moment in the ending FMV where it kind of flips between their faces. And I think that's what triggered people to start thinking about it and then start examining like lines in the game and stuff and see how plausible it was. I would say the other big thing that was said by Kitase was it ever intended for Aerith to come back to life? And his answer was no.
Yeah, I'll read out the quote here.
Yeah.
He said, it might be good in a fantastical story that you can revive the characters, but with Final Fantasy VII, we wanted to really take another look at that, look at human life, and make people realize they don't come back. That's not exactly new information in this interview. He's commented on this before. That, death is a core theme of Final Fantasy VII and loss.
Yes, it is. I mean, the original quote is in a song, in an OC remix song, and I think it's Sakaguchi's quote, and he says, or it might be Kitase actually, and he's like, in the real world things are very different. You just need to look around you. Nobody wants to die that way. People die of disease and accident. Death comes suddenly. There's no notion of good or bad. It leaves no dramatic feeling but great emptiness. When you lose someone you love very much, it leaves a big empty space, and you think, if I had known this was coming, I would have done things differently. So that's like the entire quote, and I remember that only because it's in one of the OC remix songs that I listen to sometimes. And that is a core theme of 7, obviously, with Aerith. And it's one of those things that a lot of, I don't want to use the word casual, but people who consider themselves fans of 7 but don't really stop to think about the story much, partially because the translation's quite poor, and partially because some things are quite unclear, don't realise that she was always supposed to die, and there is no way she is ever coming back, because that is the point of her dying in the first place. So it's like, I don't know, it's one of those things that kind of irks me, and I'm glad we have this, confirmation, because it reaffirms to me that they're not going to do anything too batshit with her in the remake.
I know there's other fan things that I see on the internet and Tumblr and stuff, and I don't know if I want to bring them up because it's opening a can of worms that nobody on the forum wants to open. But there are people who think that after Advent Children, Aerith is continuously always coming back because she can come back from the live stream whenever she wants. But it's no, that the whole point. She showed up in spirit form a couple times in Advent Children, but at the end when her and Zack walk off, that's supposed to be it. They're gone. They're leaving. Everything is done. Aerith is gone. Aerith and Zack are both gone back to the live stream, never coming back after that point. And it's always irked me that people try to say, but Nomura said that she can. Nomura never said that. He said that she lives in the hearts of the people who knew her. I think that's, and I could be wrong, but I feel like that's where people get the impression that she's coming back.
No, it's very clearly supposed to be closure for her and Zack. Yeah. And it's all about, obviously, as, orbiting planets around Cloud.
There's a lot of people out there who seem to not, they don't believe that. They think that, Aerith will be coming back. She's basically back now because she can come back whenever she wants. No, she's not.
And those are the same people that'll be the first to leap into love triangle debates. So
no, I was not gonna go there. That's what I was trying to tiptoe around. That this is all because.
No, but it's just to continuously bring back Aerith, whether she's in a spirit form or just it really cheapens the loss of the character. I mean, and I agree with Aerith and Zack. They live on in the hearts of the people that remember them. That's poetic. It makes sense. I mean,
it's realistic.
It's realistic, and
but
it just
they live on as memories. Only memories are not actually there.
Yeah.
Except for Sephiroth, who will never be a memory. But we won't do that.
Actually, I hope they're done with Sephiroth too. Don't bring him back anymore.
Oh.
Well, yeah, I think with the remake, I don't know. It depends. They could completely change it up, but it's always going to be irritating that there are people who won't acknowledge, that she was always supposed to die and she's not supposed to be coming back. Like, that is the set that if you change that, if you think she's coming back from the dead, you are completely missing the point of her death in the first place. It's supposed to have an impact because it's not supposed to have any real meaning to it. If you examine it the way it is, it's supposed to be a shock, an empty loss, the way real death is in real life. Even if you're prepared, it's like when someone dies, they're gone, and it's like, what do we do now? That is the way it's supposed to be. Even though she is a special character, she's the last remaining Cetra, she's very much set up, for you to believe that that she's not going to die, essentially. And then she dies because that is what they intended for the story and for the plot.
And I'm going to shamelessly take a quote from Game of Thrones, but, death doesn't just come for the wicked and leave the decent behind. Aerith's death kind of shows that, nobody is immune from, just being killed senselessly. And, I mean, it sucks, and it's a hard, lesson to learn, but that's it. That's the kind of stuff that goes on in the real sucks.
Yeah, but I'm just glad that Kitase is like saying this. Just she's dead. She's always supposed to die. She's gone.
Yep. I think what we can conclude from this is that it's going to be paid DLC in the remake. Moving on.
Oh God!
Resurrect Aerith, $50.
I wouldn't put it past them, but I'd be pretty fucking disappointed
if they did do that. If it was like Spirit Aerith joins the fray, and there was like a stupid trailer that's like bringing her latest pole to the party.
I guess it could be fun because the characters in the remake are going to supposedly all have unique abilities. So perhaps there'll be a chance to play some battles after her death, which you would have never got to do otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
That would probably be some glitch you can monopolize and
no, they can't
have
Aerith
can't in the party.
They can't do it. They just can't. I'm just thinking about it now, and it's like, if you think about, I just thought about, like, imagine they had her pop in as like a DLC spirit character, do you know what I mean? And it's, you can imagine them like with her having dialogue, and it would just cheapen the whole thing. It would really just cheapen the whole thing if you could have her like after the point in the game where she's supposed to die.
Because what's the point of losing her then?
Yeah.
I mean, if she just comes back as an unsent spirit.
Unsent, you say?
Someone
I think the connection between Final Fantasy X is showing again. All right, let's finally wrap up this hour and a half segment of news from the last month. I did warn you that there was going to be a lot of it, and we were a bit off topic in times. Let's quickly take a look at what's new on the live stream. So this first item here actually came out before we published our previous podcast, but after we recorded it, so I'm going to include it here. It is part 2 of the lateral biography of Turks, The Kids Are All Right. This is something that a lot of people have been looking forward to. We don't get many comments on our articles on the live stream, but already a few people have been saying, this is great, and I've been making personal PDFs and all sorts of things with this.
Ooh.
You guys read these books by any chance?
I've read all of them aside from that one. And I'm going to read it because I think in terms of the timeline of like the universe of Final Fantasy VII, it's the latest. I think it has moments that are supposed to occur beyond where Dirge of Cerberus ended, which I think is the latest we've ever seen in like the 7 timeline. So I'm definitely going to read it at some point, but it's it's quite long.
16 chapters.
Yeah, and I just haven't really started. I started to read the first part, I think, a couple of years ago. And I was waiting kind of when I found out part 2 wasn't out yet, I was just kind of like, I don't want to get halfway through this and stop. So big props to Pixel and all the people who worked on getting this out. I can't wait to read it.
Oh, one guy gave a printed out copy of Part 1 to his brother as a Christmas present.
Aww.
Oh, he that's kind of cute. I have to admit, I haven't read a lot of this Turks one. I think I was reading parts of Part 1, but I haven't gotten through the whole thing yet.
Our next item on what's new is something I probably should have put in the news section, but I fucked up.
Better late than never.
Yeah, well, we do have an article about this, so I'm going to get away with it. It's the Ultimania books are finally getting English translations. This Ultimania series, if you don't know, how could we describe it? It's basically like a canonical sort of arts and information book series that has been out in Japan for every game in the main series up to 14 so far. I don't know if there's a 15 one yet.
There is a 15 one, yes.
Okay.
I know Trace has worked on the translations with Super Espresso. She's a forum member.
Yeah.
Well, this is amazing news. I didn't know about this. I've always wanted them to do English translations of the Ultimania books.
It's being published by Dark Horse, and there's going to be 3 of them. And I believe, I haven't clicked into the article in a while, but I believe the first one is going to cover Final Fantasy 1 to 6.
Yep, that's right.
And I mean, I'm excited for this. You know, the Ultimanias are, probably like the one piece of, Final Fantasy merchandise that I always wish would be localized and released for English speaking and English reading audiences. And
I'm really worried that
there's so much behind the scenes, info, just not just concept art, but there's just so much like, story info and, things like tidbits about like, oh, we were originally going to do this and then we decided to do this, and just, it documents like how the story changed, throughout its
development. I'm worried there's going to be missing information though, because each Ultimania book's quite large. And if they're doing 1 to 6 in one book, how big is that book going to be? Or are they going to be condensing it? Do you know what I mean? I guess we'll see when it comes out next year. But
that's what I was concerned about too.
I think I'll definitely be getting it. Obviously, I'm most excited for the Volume 2, which I assume will have like 7 to 10 in it, or even just 7, 8, 9.
Just 7, 8, 9, yeah. If you're not familiar with these books, they're kind of, I guess they're kind of like the Bible of Final Fantasy. Like if there's ever a dispute in the fandom or something, if one person has a factoid that they've pulled out of the Ultimania, then that pretty much wins the debate, because it's just considered to be canon. It's like, what the developers themselves have said.
I own the Crisis Core Ultimania, and that was Advent Children forums were still a thing, and everyone was getting, people were buying the Ultimanias and translating them and stuff. And I mean, pretty much one of the main reasons I got it was because it had some of the 7 anniversary art inside, and I also liked the cover render with Cloud, Zack, and Angel on the front. But I mean, other than that, it's all in Japanese.
Of course, we have a lot of those translations hosted on the live stream.
Yeah, I know.
Of the Final Fantasy VII Ultimania.
I mean, I feel like Ultimanias are fun, but sometimes I feel like a lot of this information should have been explained in the game. And especially, like, I feel like as time goes on, how much is Square just leaving out because they assume, well, people will just go read the book and find out. We don't have to put it in the game. I don't want them to start getting lazy and just being like, oh, well, we'll just like publish a little book, a book on the side that people can go read instead of actually trying to work this into the plot. I don't know.
Sometimes the Ultimanias take away by giving too much information and, kind of ruining your suspense of disbelief. And
like going back to Final Fantasy X too, it never really explains the link between Tidus and Shuyin other than the fact that they look alike. But then the Ultimania actually explains how they are connected, and I'm just sitting there like, why was this not actually put in the game? Like, wouldn't that have been important?
Maybe the assumed fans would make the connection. You know, Shuyan was a famous blitzball player in Real Xanarkand, and Titus was a famous blitzball player in Dream Xanarkand. He wasn't like an exact, you know, render of Shuyan. You know, obviously, you know, Shuyan dated Len, and, you know, Titus had his, you know, jackass father jacked. So obviously, you know, there's a between the actual characters, you know, it's not a faithful, you know, imagining of Shuyan, but I don't know, I was able to make that connection.
I guess it's more about just kind of filling in the gaps about things which may have previously been left up to the
because I remember when I played 10-2, I thought that it was supposed to be like it to me. It seemed cheeseball, like it's like some sort of a trope, like, oh, they look alike, isn't it? You know, especially because they pulled kind of some of that stuff in the original Final Fantasy X. Everybody was like, "Oh, but Titus looks so much like Chapu," which is just
and then you meet Chapu.
Yeah, they had like the same, like the face was the same, but everything else looked so different.
All their faces were practically the same.
Well, no, there were some differences, but so there was the whole thing of Titus looking like Chapu, and everybody's all like, "Oh wow, they look so much alike," and that was supposed to be just a coincidence. So in 10-2, I thought they were just basically doing the same thing. That like Yuna goes on this adventure because she saw a sphere and thought it was Titus, but oh nope, it's just another guy, just coincidence. It wasn't until I read the Ultimania that like, oh, there actually was supposed to be a real connection. We just didn't bother putting it in the game, so it just came off as kind of lame in the game.
Moving on then, the most recent article that we've got up on the live stream as of this podcast recording is a video editorial called Final Fantasy VII Remake versus Nostalgia. This is again Pixel's project, this time in collaboration with another one of our members called Crash Ouch. And they basically they kind of start off by discussing what nostalgia is, and then propose that when you remember games that you've played a long time ago, you kind of remember the good parts of them more strongly than the bad parts. And then they look at kind of how that's going to affect our perception of the remake, as inevitably everyone is going to be comparing it to the original game.
Well, that's what everyone's doing, isn't it? Because it's I've always maintained that one of my favourite moments in all of gaming is at the end of the live stream sequence on disc 2 when Cloud finds himself again, and it's like the reveal that he was there all along. And it's kind of, because up until that point it's been a complete mindfuck, and it's like, no, he wasn't there, that wasn't him, what the hell is going on? And you find all this out, and then at the end of it you're like, oh wait, and then the music kicks in, and that's just such an amazing moment. And obviously I'm looking for that not to be framed perfectly like the original, but if they don't do that scene justice, I will be disappointed, and that's just not something I can help, because it's one of my favourite moments. The original will always exist, but the fact that they're remaking it, I really, really hope they do certain scenes justice, and every fan of 7 will be feeling the same way.
You know, even if it's not exact frame by frame, if they can at least manage to capture, you know, the original emotion of the scene, which
they could do it in a better way, for sure. Because
especially since they'll have actual facial expressions now, so you'll be able to see like the realization in Cloud's eyes when he realizes that he was there all along.
Yeah,
it's not.
It was the real him.
And Tifa as well. Tifa's reaction,
exactly,
because that whole segment is a journey with Cloud and Tifa trying to recover Cloud's memories, and it's such an important part of the original game, but nobody talks about it. When you speak to people about Final Fantasy VII, the number one topic is always Aerith's death. But for me, the biggest moment in that game is that moment, is when, because the game is about Cloud, really. When you examine the game as a whole, it's about Cloud, and that is the biggest moment in the game for Cloud. So, for his character, and for who his character is. So, the fact that no attention is paid to that by the fandom, or very, very little compared to some of the other set piece moments in the game. I'm kind of worried the developers might follow suit.
I don't know. I feel like some of the stuff I've read about it gives me hope they won't. 'Cause I agree. That is actually one of my favorite moments in the game too. It's like the whole live stream sequence where you find out all the truth about Cloud and he finds himself. But I know that there was like some comments they were making about like the differences between the characters like in the original game and how they were in the compilation, and how they're going to make sure that they're like the way they were in the original game versus not like they were in the compilation. Especially Aerith. I feel like Aerith should be a lot more outgoing and kind of spunky than what she ended up being in the compilation.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm glad. So the fact that the team notices that like, oh, they were at this game, they were this way in the original game, and they were different in the compilation, and
exactly.
we're gonna. So they notice that. So I'm hoping that gives me hope that they will notice things like what you were just saying, Lex. That the scene in the as much as Aerith's death gets a lot of talk because of how out of the blue it was and sad it was, that like stuff like the live stream sequence for Cloud figures out who he really is, like they will realize that is so important.
Exactly. I mean, there's
I hope
the
so.
game than just the relationship between Cloud and Aerith, however heartbreaking it is. And, what you were saying earlier about Aerith's spunkiness, with the compilation, there's just this huge misconception that, Tifa's the more outgoing one and Aerith is the shy one. I'm like, no, people, it's the opposite.
Yeah, because Aerith was in the original game was always
always the more outgoing one.
This would be a really good moment to plug the Kotaku Lost in Translation series, which is ongoing, I believe. They're going to have more episodes. In which this is terrible, but I've forgotten the guy's name. Does anybody remember it? He's a member on the board now. Tim Rogers, I think. Oh God, if I've got that wrong. He's a really nice guy. He's on the board and stuff, and he does these humorous videos of him playing Final Fantasy VII in Japanese for the first time, and he's someone who lived in Japan for 10 years, as he will tell you in every video. But he understands the cultural nuances and stuff all the time. So you can be a person who knows Japanese and translate the words, but it doesn't really, although it is giving you more context than the original English translation did, he is taking these translations and then applying like, okay, so but this is the dirty way to say this because this happened in Japan at this time. So it's a really excellent series because it gives a lot of background, and one thing in particular that comes out in it is how cheeky Aerith is. She's a very funny character, and all of that was unfortunately lost in the original English translation of 7. So that's another thing that I'm really hoping will make it into the remake, is her personality.
That's good.
And I know
definitely.
Oh, sorry, Clint.
I was just going to say I definitely recommend this video series. It's kind of putting a lot of stuff which we have on the live stream into a really accessible form. It is well, I'm not sure if we're allowed to call it a collaboration with a live stream, but there's definitely been assistance from Pixel, one of our staff members.
Well, I remember even playing the original game. In the original English version of the game, I thought that Aerith was plenty cheeky. So the fact that she might be even more so in the original Japanese, I actually really, really like that, because that's the way she's supposed to be. Whereas in the compilation, she was like this innocent, like saintly character, and I'm like, that's not who she is. No.
Yeah.
It makes sense for Aerith's character to be, quite cheeky, because she grew up in the slums. She wouldn't have been around, like the most well-mannered people her entire life.
Yeah.
She would have picked up some stuff somewhere. Some vocabulary.
Well, she even says herself, like, I grew up in the slums. I can take care of myself.
One of the other things as well in that Lost in Translation series is that she has her nickname for Cloud is like a Japanese phrase for like Mr. Everything or like jack of all trades, and she uses this for him all throughout the game. Like throughout her part in the game, she calls him this all the time. But that's obviously something that doesn't occur in the English translation. So
that's kind of. I remember being really surprised like that. Like, oh man, I wish we had that.
Yeah, so it's a great series for that.
Especially since Zach was talking about being a jack of all trades before he died. It's even more heartbreaking.
That's sad. Anyways.
So just bringing this back to the original article I was mentioning, it was Final Fantasy VII Remake versus Nostalgia. I'm not sure how much that necessarily applies to people like us who, well, at least speaking for myself, I play through the game, every year and a half, 2 years or so. So it's not really all about the memories for me because it's still always fresh in my mind. What do you guys think about the danger that people who maybe once played the game back in, late 90s are now going to play the remake and their memory is not going to match up with the remake, and that's going to cause disappointment, even if the remake ends up being a good game on its own right?
Something I can see happening genuinely is obviously if they stay quite true to the original material, we will get a better English translation. And obviously the dialogue is going to be different regardless, right? Because it's spoken lines and they will be updating all that and adding more in and etc. etc. But if it follows the same plot points and the same kind of the characters say the same kind of things, I can see people still complaining because they don't understand that is what was in the original game. If that makes sense. Because it's going to be a more accurate representation of what was intended from the original Japanese, and a lot of it was lost in translation. So when if that does make its way into the remake, if that comes through in the remake, I can see people being pissed off because they'll be like, that's not what happened in the original game. And we'll be sitting over here on TLS going like, actually, it was like, but I don't know. I could see that happening, to be honest.
But I think if people played the game once in their youth and then they, come back, 20 years later and play the remake, if they're disappointed, maybe they would have owed it to themselves to replay the game before the remake came out if things aren't exactly as how they remember.
Yeah, certainly couldn't hurt to give the original a quick spin before you get your hands on the remake.
Oh yeah, I definitely plan on doing that, and coming from someone who hasn't played the original in years, I don't even remember the last time I played it. It's been so long.
Okay, well, if we don't have anything else to say about that, I'll just encourage people to go subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think it's just called The Lifestream, to find this video, and all our podcast episodes go up there as well. Now we'll get on to listener feedback. We had one piece of feedback from our last episode, which feels like a long time ago now. We were discussing about which game you should recommend to a Final Fantasy beginner. I think 10 and possibly 9 came up quite a lot. We have a comment here from Minato on the Livestream forum. Would one of you like to read this out?
I can do it.
Go ahead.
Okay, Minato says, I concur with 10 being the best game through which to introduce people to the franchise, but I'd argue that 6 has the strongest opening. The narration gets through introducing you to the world a bit quicker than 12. The Magic Tech armor gives you a variety of attack options, so you aren't forced to just select the same thing over and over till the game opens up, and the Moogles and Tritok make a strong statement that this world, though it's got more technology in it, is still very fantastical.
I think this may have been in reference to people bringing up 12 as having a good intro.
Well, I think because we had asked which one was the best game to introduce newbies to the series.
But then we also kind of branched into which game just has the strongest opening period.
True.
I mean, I think that's kind of, I don't know, it's subjective as to which game has the strongest opening. I mean,
all right, let's call off the whole podcast. It's subjective. Let's go home, everybody.
I don't know. I mean, it's in the eye of the player. I mean, we could sit and argue which game has the strongest opening and which one is easiest to understand. I mean, I do kind of agree with the point about 12, about how, you've kind of got this great opening, you've got this great framing story and narration, but it kind of takes a little bit to get the plot going and to get more, variety into your party and things like that.
And to get the mechanics going, which I think is Minato's point here, just that when you start playing with the combat in 12, it's just you hit the attack button.
You need more party members to really take advantage of the gambit system, so that's one of 12's shortcomings.
There's quite a few Final Fantasy games where they don't really give you things to do at the beginning besides attack the enemy.
13.
So I agree with Roger here, Minato, that 6, the Magitek armor is clever in that you suddenly have 3 attacks with Biggs and Wedge, and maybe 5 or so with Terra.
Maybe.
And you can still get through the battles pretty quickly just by doing auto crossbow and bio and stuff. Were you all here when we recorded last time?
I think I was.
I don't think Lex was.
No, I don't think I was last time.
Do you want to quickly add anything to this discussion that we had last time? Which game you'd recommend for a beginner? Which game has the strongest opening?
I'll just quickly say I've given it a bit of thought, and I think you would need to have a discussion with that person and find out what kind of games they like first and what kind of gameplay they liked. And then you could posit to them that if they want to know what Final Fantasy is like, you could say Final Fantasy IX is one extreme and Final Fantasy XII is another. And that Final Fantasy IX draws on more classic Final Fantasy elements and is more representative of what it used to be. And that 12 is kind of a really good open world adventure. And it's kind of the first, branching out different Final Fantasy that was released. 10...
Sorry.
I was just going to say 10 is a good jumping off point as well because it's got an easy to follow path, and then kind of it's very A to B. So yeah, I mean they all kind of have their strengths and weaknesses. If you asked me to pick an original PlayStation version to introduce someone to, I'd probably pick 9 over 7 and 8 purely because in terms of controls and stuff, it's the least dated. And more representative of what Final Fantasy is kind of supposed to be in inverted commas.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Normally at this point we would bring up a new discussion topic and question for the listeners, but we're already running quite long on this show. There was a lot of news to discuss. So we're not going to have a specific discussion topic this week. We will save that for the next time. If you have anything you'd like us to discuss, then you can email us at lifestreampod@gmail.com. You can comment on our YouTube upload of this episode. You can leave a message on our forum or in the comments when we publish this article, this podcast at thelifestream.net. We'll always read your feedback on the next episode. So that's just going to bring us to the any other business section. You guys been playing anything interesting recently?
The last game that I was playing was Sonic Mania, which was awesome. If
so
you
good.
If you like me, and I know that Lex is too because he also posted the Sonic the Hedgehog topic on the forum. If you loved to play Sonic back in the day of the Genesis era, like me and obviously Lex did, you will love Mania. I loved Mania. It was awesome. It was a really good,
fantastic game.
Yes, very good. And it's just Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, nice and simple, fun enemies. Just, it was perfect. It was everything. This is the Sonic of my childhood. Come back
to basics.
That's exactly the way I feel about it. I'm still picking it up and playing it randomly, even though I've completed it a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm. haven't had a lot of time to play yet, but I do kind of feel like an itch. Like whenever I'm like, oh, I wish I could go play a game. I'm like, Mania is what I want to go pick up.
You've been playing anything else, Lex?
I got Pokemon Moon today, so I'm dying to play that. But I played the demo yesterday. That was fun. I've been playing 14 lots. Sonic Mania. What else have I been playing? Oh, I got a VR, so that's the thing. And I played some of the VR games. Those are pretty cool.
Any VR games stand out for you?
The big bass fishing one from 15, whatever that's supposed to be.
Monster of the Deep.
No, none of them really stand out, to be honest. The thing I've enjoyed most about the VR headset is like you can put it on and you kind of have a cinema screen in front of your eyeballs, and you can set it to like an absolutely massive size, so it's like being in the IMAX but by yourself. So you put your headphones on and you put that mode on, you can play any game or like watch any movie, and that's super cool. So obviously I used that to play Final Fantasy VII on PS4 and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. So I might do a playthrough of the game like that. I don't know. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I don't really have anything specific that I've played though. I'm about to start playing Pokemon Moon and I'll probably get into that.
We won't keep you much longer.
Ooh.
How about you, Lith?
I haven't really played anything lately, new or otherwise. I don't know, work has been working me a lot, and whenever I'm home, it's, either I'm on the computer chatting with you guys or sleeping, so I don't know, it's just been the past few months have been kind of busy for me as far as games. I mean, one game I do want to play, but haven't been able to buy yet, is Ninja Theory's Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
I want to play that so bad.
It looks really good. The majority of the reviews I've heard so far have been really good. If you don't know anything about it, basically it's you play as a Celtic warrior, Senua, and she suffers from psychosis, so you hear voices throughout the entire game, and sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're harmful. And I know a lot of people expressed annoyance at, hearing the voices constantly, but it really is a part of... I watched maybe an hour of gameplay before I stopped because I didn't want to spoil anything else, but it's a very interesting way to tell the story. And basically, she's kind of journeying through like the Viking underworld to retrieve to find the soul of her dead lover, and it's they did a lot of research with it, by talking to people who suffer from psychosis and a lot of other things. So Ninja Theory did a pretty good job with this game, and it's something I've been wanting to play for a while. I just haven't been able to find the time to actually sit down and buy it and start it.
That is definitely on my want to play list.
Yeah. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, but it's basically the game is it's only digital, so you have to buy it digital. PS4, I can't remember if it's on PC or not yet, but it's being sold at half the cost of a regular game because it's only, you get maybe 7 to 8 or 9 hours of gameplay out of it, depending on, how fast or how much you take your time through it. But, it looks like a really good gameplay experience. It's something I really want to play.
Besides Final Fantasy XIV, the only game I've really been playing recently is a video game of a card game of a tabletop RPG. It's called Pathfinder Adventures. Pathfinder being a D&D spin-off. Then they made the card game and then the video game. And I played all the way through it, through the main story. It's fun, but the game is so unbelievably buggy. I kept reporting bugs onto their forum, like, I can't progress with the game until you fix this. And they would in a couple of days, but I'm not going to touch that game again. I left a thumbs down review on Steam as a result.
Speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, I guess this could go here. I actually started a Dungeons and Dragons campaign with some of my coworkers.
Ooh.
We've had 2 sessions so far. We're currently playing like a pre-made story because a couple of the people, like 3 of the people in our group, they've never played D&D, but they have like no RPG experience whatsoever. Like they don't play Final Fantasy and shit like that either. So they don't really. So this is all like brand new to them. So we're kind of doing like a pre-made thing. But then when we're done with this, we're gonna start an original campaign and create brand new characters, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm running one of those in Pathfinder for some friends of mine, but we were supposed to play it last night, and 2 of them pulled out for work and tiredness reasons. We ended up just playing a pre-made campaign as well, with those of us who did show up. We're going to be playing D&D quite soon on the live stream. I'll give that a quick plug.
Oh yeah. I'm not sure if I'll be able to make that one work because I don't know if I'll be able to meet at the same times that everybody else on TLS does. Because one of my coworkers is basically we rescheduled this session we had last night a couple times. Since we all
it's
work
quite
together,
a big time commitment, yeah.
Yeah, but since we all work together, it works. It's a little easier to find a time where we can be in the same room together. So I don't know. I want to do the TLS one.
I may be getting too late. I'd go check the thread if you're interested.
Yeah, I probably am too late to get in on that. Oh well.
Do we have any other business? I always ask about what you're playing, but feel free to bring up anything else that's on your mind.
I'm doing a project on Yoshitaka Amano for my color theory class. I made a thread about it on the forums, but I think I might have what I need to be able to throw something together.
Sounds interesting. Keep us updated on the forum.
Oh, maybe I will. Maybe I'll post my project when it's done. It's actually due on Tuesday, so I have to get something together quick by like tomorrow night.
One thing I'll shamelessly plug in here. Couldn't get him podcast, and unfortunately Carly couldn't join us either. But Tenny, Carly, and Trace, known as the Twilight Mexican, on the Lifestream forums, we are going to be getting together at the end of the month to go to EXPCon, which is in St. Augustine, Florida. Pretty much the main attraction there is that all 4 voice actors for the main Chocobros for Final Fantasy XV are going to be there. So Ray Chase, Robbie Damon, Adam Crowsell, and Chris Parson. All 4 of them are going to be there, and it's going to be
remembered.
It's going to be quite an experience. If you haven't known it by now, if you're a fan of 15, check out the Final Fantasy XV archive we have on the Lifestream.net, done by the Twilight Mexican. It is the most. I will go out on a limb and say it. It is the most comprehensive Final Fantasy XV archive that you'll find on the internet to date. So if you're looking for lore, translations, loading screens, script, and that's all of, main dialogue, incidental dialogue, dialogue from the DLC, items, the bestiary, everything. We got it. It's an ongoing project because obviously more content for 15 is still being released, but it's a huge project, and Trace has taken on a lot of work with this. So
for sure, we've plugged that on the show before, I think, but no harm in plugging it again by any means.
But anyways, it's going to be fun. We will definitely talk about our experiences after the fact when the con is over. So look for us to talk about that. For people who are unaware, Carly, who is normally on the podcast, lives in Puerto Rico, and as you all know, Puerto Rico was hit recently with a couple of awful hurricanes, and that is the reason why Carly is not able to be here today. Her area was luckily not as badly hit as as other parts of the island, but she does not have a reliable connection to be able to record podcasts with us with. So we are definitely all thinking of her, and we will be having a link to, what'd you say, the Hispanic Federation?
Mm-hmm.
On the front page. I think there might be a thread going up in the forum to donate for that, or any other charities that you know that are helping out in Puerto Rico, because they can definitely need it. I know and I know there's also another forum member who I think also lives in Puerto Rico, Carlos, right? He doesn't post as much anymore, but I think he also is from Puerto Rico.
I think he's Puerto Rican but lives in Florida.
Oh, never mind then. But Carly for sure lives in Puerto Rico, and so we definitely want to help out there as much as we can. Because we were all very worried for her.
Yep.
She had an internet blackout for a few days, and we're like, Carly, where are you?
We were very worried.
We might be posting a little widget to donate to Scotland and Ireland soon, because we're about to be swamped by a hurricane. There's already there's already been twisters spotted in Ireland.
Wow, really? This is getting kind of crazy. What a weird time. But
the climate is changing.
I've been hit by. So good lord, it's just been a crazy year for all of us.
What have you been hit by?
I've been hit by a hurricane here down south in the U.S.
I haven't yet. Knock on wood.
Luckily, where I live, we don't get hurricanes in Minnesota.
You get tornadoes.
We do get tornadoes, though. I know I've never been through a tornado, but the area of Minneapolis that I live in was hit by a tornado a few years ago. But luckily, I was not living here. We're at like the very top of Tornado Alley, so not the entire state is part of it, but like the bottom half of it is considered part of Tornado Alley, I think. But we're not gonna get anywhere near as like stuff that they get down in like Oklahoma and shit.
Ugh.
They really get like tornadoes like all the time.
But yes, please do go to the livestream.net and donate if you can. And on a personal level, Carly, I hope it doesn't take you too long before you can get around to listening to this. We all miss you, and we hope to have you back on the show soon.
Well, Carly is going to be in St. Augustine, so we can definitely, if she can't listen to it by then, we will definitely let her listen to it.
Excellent.
In a place where she has been.
We'll force her to. We'll shove a pair of headphones on her head and make her sit there.
There you go.
Okay, and that wraps up our show for today. Thank you very much to my guests, Lex, Lith, and Tenny.
Thank you.
All that's left is for me, Flintlock, to say thank you for listening, take care, and always protect the crystals.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.